All right. Thank you and welcome back to Psych Your Way to Success. I'm your host, Claire, along with,
Heather?
and today we were still going to talk about, a topic through the lens of IO psychology. And our topic today is actually positive workplace culture. Heather had the great idea to have this conversation because, again, we're still very possibly working on that same motivation from New Year's, that new you, new year, new me concept. I know that's probably getting super old at this point for everybody. But let's have a really kind of spirited conversation when it comes to the one thing that we all seem to strive for, which is that positive work culture. Um, so I had to double check and I wanted to define this before we get too far into it. But according to AI and some things that I was able to look up real quick on the internet, we have it defined as a positive work culture refers to what they say as an environment within an organization where employees feel valued, supported, and motivated. So basically, it's characterized by key elements like trust, respect, openness, collaboration, recognition, just that work life balance and positive leadership. So, and most importantly, diversity and inclusion. So, we're going to talk about maybe some tips and tricks on how to help cultivate, create, and work within and be a positive leader within a positive workplace. Right? So,
I love it. Yeah, I love it. And I think like when I think about this, it's like there is no one size fits all.
mm-mm.
And I think that I think that's important. Like a positive work culture in um a Zappos community is going to be very different than a positive work culture in a law firm or accounting
Mhm.
office or a medical facility. Like there
Oh,
it's all
absolutely.
going to look so different. And it really has to be something that I think can be sustainable.
Oh, that is a great way of putting it. If it's short-lived, flash pan, I had a really great day today versus I really enjoy waking up and going to work every day. Like, who is it that said, the way you feel about your job is the way you feel on Sunday night?
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, so when you're getting ready to go to bed and your weekend is rounding up. So that is for those that work weekdays, right? So how do you feel the night before you start your work week, which is Sunday for a lot of people? So that Sunday night, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I would say that like that's partly why a positive work culture is so important, right? Because it
Mhm.
causes stress when it's not a positive work culture. And
Yes.
so there if it's not positive, then going into work and feeling that dread is just miserable,
Oh, it's
right?
absolutely miserable. I remember being so scared to see, like, when my phone rang after I'd left one of my jobs that was incredibly toxic. I remember my phone ringing and I would just have this like instant reaction to hearing my phone ring because I was so scared to see who it was. And this one person, if it was that person, I would just, your stomach flips, you're not feeling great. You're just like, no, I really don't want to speak to them. And of course, it took some time, but that goes away. That no longer holds power in you. But yeah, you're right. That stress will take you down.
It really does. And it really like it impacts your life. A weekend can never be long enough.
Your vacation is only a reminder of how much you dislike your job, right?
Exactly. Like it doesn't and I think there is a responsibility both in for the workplace and for the employees, like
Yeah.
seeing if there is a possibility to adjust and to um, change things. I always tell my kids, you only have two choices in life, really. You can change your attitude or change your situation. That's it.
Oof.
And so, like, if sometimes it is a you thing. You know what I mean?
No
Like, and
arguments for
so
me.
sometimes your attitude is just good attitude,
It's
right?
crap and it needs to change.
Yeah, and so, like, but I always say if you change your attitude and it doesn't work,
Maybe it's something else, yeah.
yeah,
Change your
maybe it's something
situation.
else. Exactly, change your situation. So, like,
Right.
so it's just interesting. But, like, what do you think are characteristics of a positive work culture? So, like, we're,
Mhm.
talking about the importance, defining it, and everything can be different, but I would say there are a few characteristics
Oh,
that
absolutely.
that will always be present in a positive work culture.
Well, and I think back to the times where I probably felt the most positive, the most secure, in my job, and I guess that's one of the words, but that security, safety, ironic coming out of the girl that worked for over 10 years in occupational safety. But just there's this element of trust. Like I implicitly trusted my superior, like my boss, my mentor, my person that I would have to report to. And when I could implicitly, or just in general, you don't have to implicitly trust them. I was lucky enough to be able to in one of my roles, but for sure that trust being there is such a huge thing for me. And that's the one thing that stands out probably the most because probably I got it the least in other jobs. But yeah.
Definitely. I think hand in hand with that is also respect.
Oh,
Like, do you
great
respect
point.
who you're working for, right? Like,
Mhm.
so, um,
Does it go both
but
ways?
exactly, like,
Mhm.
is there a respect for exactly, both ways, 100%. And I think with that trust, then that creates the ability to have open communication.
Mhm.
And so, um, really being able to speak your mind or say what's going on, or have the ability to change your situation, or change the situation, not
And I would even add a caveat. You say speak your mind, and I hear that, and I'm like, yes, but I would say respectfully speak your mind, tactfully speak your
exactly.
mind, right? Like, and just adding that little bit to it, I think adds a lot of value to, you know, I had somebody once who was just like, why can't you just thicken your skin and deal with the way I speak? And it was just like, because you're not being respectful. Like, there's nothing about what you're saying and doing is respectful. It'd be great if you stopped. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah, I like that. I like that respect level is I like that you brought that up. Um
yeah. And then I think, if, like, teamwork, like, can you work as a
oh
team, right? I mean,
yeah.
teamwork, collaboration. Maybe you're not even on a team, but you're collaborating. um
Well, you can do it.
I've
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, no, I've just seen where people are on a team, but they're not necessarily collaborating. Like, they finish their one little job,
We
and then
call
they
that
wait
living in
for
a
you to
silo. Yeah, everybody's
I'm
living in their own little silo.
I'm always like, "You guys are a great team, but"
Mhm. Yeah,
like,
and each of these
yeah,
elements, I mean, to be able to create trust, like to have that respect, to create that teamwork, I think each one of those, my biggest, I don't know about you, my biggest suggestion for cultivating any of that is time and effort with your team, right? With your team members, with each other. Team building can be really sensitive topic for some people. It takes away from the efficiency of the workplace sometimes, according to certain people. Um, but I would definitely say on part of the leadership, it will take time to spend with the employees. Like you have to put in the work. And this isn't easy. And it is, again, another long game. This is another one of those, it's a long game, that sort of things. And even if they stay with you for a year and move to a different department or different company, you've now valued that person to go do that somewhere else. You've shown them what good looks like. You maybe
yeah,
have even shown them what great looks like instead of, what we get so much of, which is what bad looks like and what bad feels like. So,
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, in our last podcast about motivation, we talked about recognition and appreciation,
oh,
and
that's a great
that's,
one.
like, hand in hand with building a positive work culture. So not only does it motivate the employees, but it also creates the culture you're looking for.
Mhm. And I would say, just as that reminder, just like we talked about last time, making sure that you're recognizing and appreciating them the way they enjoy to be appreciated. Not the way you want to
Exactly.
be appreciated, right? Like, we're going with the platinum rule, not the golden rule. You treat others the way they want to be respected, right? Not
Oh, I
just the way
like
you
that.
want
I
to be.
hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really
Oh,
cool.
I certainly hope I didn't make it up. I'm pretty sure I heard it from somewhere.
I just haven't
I'm
heard
not
that.
that
I
good.
like that. The platinum rule. I like platinum
Yeah.
better anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah,
that's awesome. That's great.
it's fun.
I couldn't
Let's see.
agree. And then, I mean, then you go into work-life balance, which we talked about as well,
Oh
um,
man.
where it's important to, and I always think work-life balance doesn't mean like 50% here, 50% there. Sometimes it fluctuates, we definitely talked
Always
about
will.
it always
And you're
does,
gonna
and it
have
should.
long work days some days. You're gonna have short ones other days. They do even out. It should even out. Um, but I do censor people if all you are ever saying is, I just really got to get this done every single day of every single week of every single month. You might want to take a look at what's going on. Now, if that's the choice you want to make and you want to be the person at work all the time, wonderful. Great. That's your happy place. Okay. Um, I think it's just this feeling of people needing to complain about it, but maybe it's not a real complaint. Maybe that's just really what they're happy doing. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a totally different topic. I went down a rabbit hole in my own head right there, and then it kept
I
going.
saw it. I saw it. Well, I think when you were saying that, what I was thinking about was sometimes people are avoiding, so they stay at work
I went there.
longer.
Yeah.
I can see that in your head, and so I think it is important to like have that work life balance. So you're not avoiding because
I
that
know.
can cause that can cause stress in yourself, and then that stress comes into the workplace.
Hmm.
You
And
just
then
it just
resentment in the family. If you have a family at home, it can just add in. Ugh. Anyway, okay, totally different topic, entirely
yeah,
different psychology manifestation there on that one. But yeah. I think
exactly. But oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, I think one of the things that I really appreciated the most, like, I always have this one workplace in mind when I think positive, work culture, and it was so much a part of what our leadership was managing, so it really depends on our leadership, but when they were allowing me space to completely change my career and grow into something that I wouldn't have even thought of myself, that growth opportunity was such an invaluable piece. So finding those people who have potential, maybe untapped even, um, and really allowing them space to be able to bring that out was just such an it changed my entire life. And I don't think people realize how much this can impact and affect a single person. And it because it affected me, it affected my friends and my son. And I was able to grow a totally different, you know, career out of it, which is amazing. And I love being able to look back.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I always said when we would look at turnover rate in our office, people who left our office for a better opportunity, I
Yeah.
always had like a star by that number because that's always the goal in my mind is that if people leave for a better opportunity, a better situation for themselves, I
Mhm.
don't that's not leaving in a negative situation. They couldn't we got them to this spot and then they got to the next spot. I just think that's a thing to celebrate, honestly.
Oh, I
When you're
agree. I think
running
I almost misunderstood you for a second because you would say leaving for a better opportunity, like better pay, better management, better something. And I don't think that's what you're saying. I just wanted to clarify. What you're saying is they reached where at the highest that they could in your organization because you developed them and then they moved on to be something like they found a bigger opportunity that outgrew where you guys could provide, right?
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
cool. I
Thank
just
you
want to
for
make sure.
clarifying. No, 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 it's definitely that. Yeah, so I think that continuous learning and development is a huge part of
That's
a
true.
positive work culture, for sure. And then I also think the last one that I will say is diversity and inclusion.
Oh, that's such a big topic. Yes.
It is, I know, and I don't even want to like jump too far into that, but I do think that that does create a positive work culture when there's even just thinking about it.
I would say that DEI is one of those topics that, I mean, we're going to have a whole episode on it coming up in the next, I'm not entirely sure when, but we will. But I do know that DEI being the thing that with the diversity, it's really hard to understand that the reason for diversity is to get different points of view, be able to understand the, having like mind and group think is such a terrible path to go down because we have the results of things like Blockbuster and BlackBerry and things that result from lack of change and everybody just agreeing, right? And understanding that inclusion is providing people opportunities to be heard in settings that maybe otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity. And I think equity being the most important here is that equity throughout rather than equity um, in one person's opinion. So having that diversity in thought and opinions and contributions with the equity, I mean, I think people are looking at it differently and looking at it not the way probably it was intended sometimes. So, yeah, I mean getting back to its roots would be great for sure. It and honestly, it creates this level of innovation that we probably wouldn't be able to see otherwise. Without that diversity, without that, equality within, we wouldn't be able to see that level of growth and innovation. It's crazy. So, yes. So, as we both know, Heather, I would actually two things that when you were talking, I wrote down and I wanted to bring up. So, I found it interesting that continuing education is not given to so many employers are not providing any kind of reimbursement plans. They are not providing succession opportunities. They're not providing anything to do with school whatsoever for their employees, which is kind of concerning. But I found it also concerning that reimbursement plans are hard for the majority of people trying to go back to school, even while they're working anyway. Do you think that there's anything there that, how do I say it? Like, do you think that there are opportunities for organizations, since it is a write off, for them to, I don't know, what would we say? Provide more of a workspace to be growing in that regard, continuous education? Have you seen much of a need for it?
I definitely see a need for it.
Hmm.
I think it's hard. I think it's changing, in my opinion, it's changing the mindset of people. Like my opinion of helping people get to that next level and grow and be better and move on, to me was like a badge of honor. But to a lot of people, that creates change. That creates, now we have to find somebody to replace them. And it creates a little bit of stress um, for the business. Sometimes people want people to stay in that same position forever as an employer. And I think that's part of the problem, honestly, because there isn't the allowance for them to learn and grow because it takes away from working at the office. It does,
So
you know?
how do you combat that? Like, that is such an interesting point. I wonder, how do we combat that? Like, how do we encourage more of a culture of growth in and possibly beyond the organization? Because like, there is no two ways about it. It is a cost to lose an employee. there is a large investment into a person that any organization makes after a period of time that is considered a loss if they leave.
Yeah, but the real thing is, what I've seen is
Hmm.
when you have a great culture, and even with this continuous learning and development, that person leaves, but that person leaves so positively. They have shared that to so many people that
Hmm.
more people want to work for you
Oh,
to
okay.
like build up. And you can't really correlate it, but it's there. It happens. I don't know. Like when we were running the dermatology clinic, I felt like we always had people who wanted to work for us. It wasn't that I'm not going to say it wasn't hard to find people, but people wanted their friends and their families or anybody who needed a job. Oh, you got to work at my spot. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it becomes like a word of mouth thing, which is much easier to hire and find people because people are coming to you. Oh, if you ever have a job, I want to work here. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, I absolutely do. Yeah. So you're saying that on one end, we may have lost and invested in someone that we have now lost so that we can, you know, but on the other hand, the cost of recruiting has reduced dramatically. So the shifting of values have like the costs of things have changed.
yeah. So, like, if you have somebody who brings somebody into an office,
Hmm.
it's going to be in their best interest to get that person up and running, you know,
Oh,
and they
completely.
are committed to that person, right? And that's
Hmm.
most like usually it's not their job, but
Right.
they want them to be successful because it was their recommendation, it's their friend. They want them to do well. And so you're saving costs in this one area,
Hmm.
even though maybe they left or this or that. But then even after people leave, they send you people. That's what's so interesting about it. You know,
Right. So
like,
there's that shift of everything that's happening. And not only are you gonna loot like gain like I should say you drop the cost of recruitment, you drop the different things, you're also getting a talent pool that is probably far greater than what you would have gotten had you cultivated a much different, more negative environment. That's interesting. I like that point. I mean, the trickle effect is quite interesting. So
yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
sometimes
really
those
fun.
people come back. I've seen that happen multiple times.
Yeah.
They leave and they get more knowledge and then they come back when a different position opens up. And so there's all I mean, it's just like it's beneficial in so many ways that you can't really like say, "Oh, this relates to this," you know?
Right. No,
So,
totally.
I mean,
I appreciate that point of view. So, we're at the end of our time. It went really quick again. I every time I say that. But um is there anything that you would like to say, lasting words?
um, I would say that the last thing I will say is that
Mhm.
addressing and resolving conflicts is key. And so making
Oh,
sure that you are heading on to that. That that is so important in a positive work culture that you actually are willing to address and resolve the conflicts
so
because
no
conflicts
hiding out
happen.
there. Yeah, I heard no hiding. Don't avoid conflict like we want to do so commonly. Yep. So okay, so I'm just going to go down the list, you guys. Trust, respect, teamwork, recognition, appreciation, work life harmony and balance. And then you have growth, continuous education, DEI, and then addressing and resolving, not just addressing sometimes, but addressing and resolving conflict. No more hiding, no putting your head in the sand. So, Heather, thank you again. This was awesome. We'll talk more about it and then any other tips and tricks that come from this type of topic. We'd love to hear from you. What are some things that really have worked for you in these types of scenarios? So, on your streaming device, you again can find us on Apple, Amazon, YouTube, and what was it? Apple and Spotify, obviously. It's always Spotify. Anyway. Thanks again for spending another 25 minutes with us, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks again.
Thanks.